Hello, welcome to Unlocking Buddhism. Have you ever shoved all the mess in your room into the closet, closed the door, and pretended everything was fine? On the outside, it looks tidy, but you know, the mess is still all in there, just hidden. The truth is, a lot of people live their lives like that, trying to fix everything on the outside, moving to a new city, changing jobs, switching friends, buying new things, making new plans. But on the inside, everything stays the same, and then comes that strange feeling. Life changes, but the emptiness stays. The problems seem new, but they have the same flavor. We feel like we're always chasing something, but never quite getting there. Have you ever felt that? What if I told you the problem isn't the world, and that maybe the answer isn't out there? Today, I want to invite you to look at a place almost no one pays attention to, your own mind. Believe it. The answer you're looking for might already be right there with you, right in front of you, just waiting for you to pause and see it. But before we begin, I want to ask you something. When you hear this word, freedom, what comes to your mind? Write one word in the comments, the first word that comes. It doesn't have to be a sentence, just one word. Let's see what that word brings up in each of us. Let me tell you a little story. Imagine a kid trying to clean their messy room. There are toys on the floor, clothes tossed everywhere, and snack wrappers hidden under the bed. But instead of really organizing everything, the kid just grabs all that mess and shoves it into the closet, slams the door, and voila. From the outside, the room looks perfect. But we both know the mess is still there, just hidden. And that's exactly what a lot of people do in real life. When they're dealing with problems, like stress, anger, sadness, they try to fix things on the outside. They change jobs, they start a new relationship, they move to a new place, they cut off people, they buy stuff, they blame the government. They think that if they can just fix what's out there, the inside will magically feel better too. But it doesn't work that way, because most of the time the real issue isn't the people around us, or our job, or the city we live in. The real issue is sitting quietly inside our own mind. But since we don't understand how our mind works, since we've never learned to pay attention to it, we try to solve internal problems using external tools. It's like trying to fix a computer by just cleaning the screen. It might look shiny, but the problem's still deep inside the system. So what happens is this: the same sadness, the same anger, the same frustrations. They don't disappear. They just move. They hide for a little while. They change form, but they stay with you. You can change your job, but still feel unappreciated. You can find a new group of friends, but still feel lonely. You can travel the world and still carry the same fear wherever you go. It follows you because it's part of your inner world, not your outer one. And we all do it. We believe that happiness is just one change away. But every time we reach that next thing, the feeling returns, sometimes even worse. It's painful, because you keep chasing peace, and it keeps running away. But here's the truth. Real peace, real freedom, real healing, they begin when we stop blaming the outside and start exploring the inside, not to judge ourselves, but to understand. Because when you understand what's really going on inside you, the thoughts, the fears, the habits that keep repeating, you stop just moving the mess around. You start actually cleaning it up. That's the shift. It's not easy, and most people never do it, because it's hard to look inside. It's hard to sit with yourself and see things you'd rather ignore. But it's the only way to stop living in a loop, where the same story keeps happening over and over again with different characters. And when you do begin to look inward, with kindness, with curiosity, you start to see the real cause of your problems. Not the world, not the people, not the job, but how your mind reacts to them. And once you understand that, well, everything starts to change. Let me ask you something. Have you ever stopped and wondered, why do people keep repeating the same problems over and over, even after changing everything around them? They change their jobs, they change relationships, some move across the country, some start a new routine, pick up new habits, read new books. But sooner or later, the same kind of struggle comes back, the same feelings, the same inner weight. Why does that happen? Because nothing truly changes unless the mind changes. It's easy to believe that our suffering comes from the outside, that our anger is because someone treated us badly, that our fear is because the world is dangerous, that our sadness is caused by the way others behave. And while yes, the world can be difficult, what really makes us suffer, what really decides how we experience each moment, is the state of our own mind. Two people can live through the same event and come out with completely different stories. One gets bitter, the other grows wiser. One feels defeated, the other becomes stronger. What made the difference? It wasn't the event itself. It was how the mind interpreted the event, how it reacted to it, how it held on to it or let it go. That's the thing. The mind doesn't just see reality. It builds it. Every single thought, every emotion we feel, every reaction we have, it all gets filtered through the beliefs, the wounds, the fears, and the habits sitting inside our mind. And most of those have been there for a very long time. We carry childhood memories we never questioned. We carry fears we picked up by watching others. We carry assumptions about who we are, what we deserve, what people are like, and we treat those assumptions like facts. But they're not facts. They're just echoes, shadows, leftovers from a mind that hasn't been cleaned in years. Now imagine walking through life wearing foggy glasses, and instead of realizing the lenses are dirty, you start to believe the world itself is blurry. That's what happens when we don't understand the mind. We confuse our inner distortion with outer reality. So, someone says something neutral, and we take it as criticism. Someone succeeds, and we feel small. A friend forgets to call, and we feel abandoned. But all of that pain doesn't come from what happened. It comes from how we processed what happened. And that processing, that interpretation, happens in the mind. But here's the real danger. We live in a world that rewards distraction. We're surrounded by noise, social media, entertainment, news, busy schedules, constant opinions, and all of it keeps us looking outward. We rarely get quiet. We rarely slow down enough to look inside. Because when we do, we might not like what we find. We might find insecurity, old wounds, anger we never dealt with, fear we've been hiding behind confidence. We might discover that so much of what we think, feel, and do isn't really ours. It's just a pattern we inherited, or a reaction we never learned to question. But here's where it gets beautiful. The moment you decide to look, really look, with patience, with honesty, without blame, you begin to take your power back. You begin to notice how often your thoughts are lying to you, how your fears exaggerate danger, how your anger tries to protect you, but ends up hurting you more. You begin to see your mind not as the enemy, but as a wild horse that's never been trained, powerful, beautiful, but unpredictable. And once you see that clearly, you can begin the process of training it, gently, daily. You don't need to fight your mind. You just need to understand it. Like listening to a child who's been scared in the dark, not to scold, but to comfort. Because the mind is not bad. It's just full of unexamined habits. But when you bring awareness to those habits, when you observe without judgment, something amazing happens. Those old patterns begin to loosen. The fog begins to clear. And for the first time in a long time, you begin to see the world and yourself more clearly. And in that clarity, there's peace. It's not the kind of peace you get from everything going your way. It's deeper than that. It's the peace of knowing that no matter what's happening outside, you're okay inside. That your mind is your friend. That you can handle whatever comes your way. Not because life is easy, but because you've grown strong where it matters most, on the inside. And that's why we say, the mind is the root of everything, not to scare you, but to free you. Because if the mind is where our problems begin, then it's also where the healing begins. When people hear the word freedom, they usually picture something like this: doing whatever you want, whenever you want. No rules, no limits, just total permission to follow every feeling, every impulse, every desire. Sounds exciting, right? But here's the strange part. That kind of freedom often leaves people feeling even more trapped. Let me explain. They stay up all night. They eat whatever looks good. They skip school or work because they don't feel like it. At first it feels great. No one's telling them what to do. They're in control, or at least they think they are. But after a while, things start to fall apart. They're tired all the time. They don't feel healthy. Their relationships get messy. They can't focus. And soon, the things that felt like freedom start to feel like chains. They're not choosing anymore. They're chasing pleasure, chasing distraction, chasing anything that helps them avoid discomfort. And suddenly they realize they're not free at all. They're being controlled by their own mind. Because real freedom, the kind that lasts, the kind that brings peace, doesn't mean following every single feeling you have. It means not being a prisoner to them. It means being able to feel anger, but not letting it decide how you treat people. It means having a craving, but not needing to give into it. It means hearing your fears, but not letting them control your life. Real freedom is when your desires, your emotions, your impulses, they can knock on your door, but you decide whether or not to let them in. And most people never learn this. Most people live their whole lives being led by whatever emotion shows up the loudest. If jealousy speaks, they follow it. If pride shows up, they defend it. If fear whispers, they back away. Again and again and again. But no, this is who you became when no one taught you how to lead your own mind. Because here's the truth. If your anger can hijack your peace, if your fear can steal your dreams, if your pride can block you from learning, then who's really in charge? It's not freedom if you're constantly reacting. It's not freedom if you have to act on every emotion. That's not being free. That's being chained. Not by other people, not by laws, but by your own untrained mind. And it's okay. It's not your fault. Most people were never taught otherwise. But once you realize it, once you see clearly that your biggest enemy might be the very emotions you thought were harmless, you start to ask a better question. What if I could feel all those emotions and still stay calm? What if I could hear the voice of my anger and not obey it? What if I could notice fear and still move forward? That's freedom. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. It's having the inner strength to not be controlled by what you want in the moment. It's being the kind of person who chooses their actions, not just reacts to feelings. Because feelings are like weather, they change. But who you choose to be in the middle of that storm, that's what builds your character. That's where real power lives. And when you have that power, not over others, but over yourself, you realize something incredible. You've been free all along. You just had to remember who's really in charge. When something in the world feels wrong, when there's violence, corruption, inequality, confusion, we almost always look outward for the cause, and the world is quick to give us answers. And for a moment, that explanation feels good. It gives us a clear enemy, something we can point to, something we can fight. It gives us hope too. If we could just change that thing, just fix that system, maybe everything would finally be okay. But here's the hard truth. You can change the system and still be stuck with the same problem. Because the system isn't alive. It doesn't think. It doesn't feel. It's just a structure. And structures are always shaped, filled, and run by people. And people are run by their minds. If you take a corrupt mind and put it in a new system, it will find new ways to corrupt it. If you take a greedy mind and give it new tools, it will use those tools for more greed. If you take an angry mind and give it power, it will use that power to hurt others, no matter what the rules are. That's why history keeps repeating itself. One regime falls, another rises. One leader leaves, another enters. One set of policies replaces the last, and yet the pain continues. The fear remains. The injustice lingers, over and over and over again. It's not because we haven't changed the system enough. It's because we haven't changed the people inside it. And by people, I don't mean them. I mean us, you, me, everyone. See, it's easy to think the world will change when they fix things. But they is just a mirror of the collective mindset of a society. If most people are angry, systems will reflect that. If most people are selfish, policies will reflect that. If most people live in fear, power will be used to control rather than serve. Now imagine something different. Imagine if people began to shift inward, to really ask, what kind of person am I becoming? Not in the way the world judges, but in the way the mind works. Imagine if people became more patient, more honest, more self-aware. Imagine if more people paused before reacting, listened before judging, questioned themselves before blaming others. Even just a few people like that can influence a community. A group of people like that can change a culture. And a generation like that, one that values integrity over image, wisdom over noise, service over status, could transform an entire system from the inside out. Because you can't build a clean house with muddy hands, and you can't build a just society with chaotic minds. If we keep teaching people how to succeed, but never teach them how to be kind, we'll keep producing powerful people who do more damage than good. If we teach kids how to read and count, but never teach them how to understand their emotions or recognize their thoughts, we'll raise brilliant minds trapped in pain. We're so busy upgrading our systems, but we've forgotten to upgrade the people who use them. That's why even the best designed structures collapse when they're filled with unchecked ego, unhealed wounds, and unexamined desires. The real upgrade begins with the mind. And no, that kind of change doesn't come from a law. It doesn't happen in a voting booth. It doesn't come from a revolution. It comes from awareness, from discipline, from compassion. It comes from individuals choosing to become better humans, not for applause, not for perfection, but because they realize this is where real change begins. Remember this. Yes, something does. But maybe that something is someone. And maybe that someone is you. Sometimes the most powerful truths in life are not hidden in some secret book or locked away in ancient temples. They're not buried in complicated theories or spoken only by gurus sitting on mountaintops. No, often the most important truth is sitting right in front of you in plain sight. And yet, you don't see it. It's like walking around your own house looking for your glasses, only to realize they're already on your face. Or searching frantically for your phone while you're holding it in your hand. It's not that the truth is hidden. It's that your mind is so distracted, so clouded, that it can't recognize what's already there. And here's the strange part. The clearer and simpler a truth is, the easier it is to miss. Because we've been trained to look for things that are dramatic, complicated, impressive. We think that if something's important, it must be difficult to understand. So we keep chasing after big answers, chasing after books, courses, opinions, people, anything that makes us feel like we're getting closer to some mysterious secret. But what if there is no secret? What if the truth has been in front of you the entire time? You just didn't know how to see it. The truth that your mind creates your experience. The truth that peace won't come from fixing the world, but from understanding yourself. The truth that you're not free when you do whatever you want. You're free when you no longer have to obey every craving, every fear, every angry thought that passes through your head. The truth that all the systems in the world can be changed, but nothing changes for real until the human mind begins to change. And the most important truth of all, the one that stares us in the face but we keep looking past it, is this. The cause of our suffering is often the same as the one thing that can end it, the mind. And yet, we rarely stop to look at it. We rarely slow down enough to ask, what am I thinking? Why am I reacting this way? Instead, we blame, we distract, we escape, we scroll. We cover up our discomfort with a little humor, a little shopping, a little noise, anything to avoid sitting with the discomfort of our own inner world. But the irony is that the longer we avoid looking, the more control it has over us. It's like being afraid of the dark and refusing to turn on the light. So we just sit there, scared, confused, never realizing that all it takes is the courage to open our eyes. And once you do that, once you start paying attention, you begin to notice something. You begin to see how your thoughts twist reality. You begin to notice how much your fear shapes your decisions. You begin to realize how many times your anger has spoken for you, when maybe silence would have been wiser. You start to see that you've been living inside a kind of illusion, not because you're broken, but because no one ever taught you to see clearly. And the most incredible part, once you do start to see, it changes everything. The world doesn't magically become perfect. People don't stop being difficult, but your relationship to everything shifts. You stop taking the bait. You stop reacting to shadows. You start finding space where there used to be only chaos. You stop needing to control everything outside of you. Because now, finally, you've learned how to meet what's inside. And the truth, that simple, powerful, invisible truth, finally comes into view. It was never the world. It was never the job, or the politics, or the people. It was the mind. And the moment you see that, really see that, you take your first step toward freedom. Not the kind that screams and demands and conquers, the quiet kind. The kind that makes you smile even when things are hard. The kind that makes you breathe deeper, see clearer, live lighter. The kind that was there all along, just waiting for you to notice it. We spend so much time trying to fix the world, trying to repair what's broken out there, that we forget to look within. But here's what no one tells you, and maybe this will be the biggest shift in your life. Your mind is the starting point of everything. Your pain, your decisions, your relationships, your joy. It all begins inside. There's no point in changing locations if you're still carrying the same baggage. No point in fighting for freedom if you're still a prisoner of your own thoughts. No point blaming the system if the biggest chaos still lives inside you. And you know what's beautiful? That even with all of this, the solution is also inside. The peace you're searching for, the clarity you're craving, the freedom you dream of. It all begins when you stop running from your mind and start listening to what it's trying to show you. Maybe you don't need a complicated answer. Maybe you just need to pause, breathe, and pay attention to what's always been there. The truth. Simple, silent, but powerful. Now tell me in the comments, what touched you the most in this video? What part felt like it spoke directly to you? That already helps, and it helps others too. And if you think someone needs to hear this today, share this video. Sometimes, a conversation like this changes everything.